There are a lot of scams in life we just openly accept, like how your phone is going to be obsolete in 2 years, bottled water, and letting everyone spy on us through said phone. Unfair schemes are everywhere, including sports. I narrowed it down to the most egregious we pretty much all knowingly participate in, and that's coming up right after you hit that subscribe button because you want more interesting videos on sports. Food and beer prices at the stadium. The first rule of economics is supply and demand. And the first rule of entering a sporting event is removing your supply and then demanding you pay higher prices. The easiest and most profitable scam for stadiums is the banning of outside alcohol. It's one of the craziest rules that we all just openly accept. You can't bring in any of your alcohol because that would be crass, but feel free to buy our Bud Lights for $15 and have yourself a time. Markups on alcohol at the ballpark can be as high as 300%. A 16-ounce beer outside is usually $5, but inside can be as high as $16. A 2024 study by 1075 The Fan had both Commanders Field and Nationals Park with the most expensive beers at $16.49 and $15.40 respectively. Fittingly, they're both in Washington. The cheapest in the MLB, the Rockies were at $3.08, and in the NFL, the Bengals were at $6.08. Makes sense that the beers at Coors Field were the lowest because if you are a Rockies fan, you need a frickin' drink. Related to alcohol sales at the stadium are food prices, and though the quality of said food is widely variable, we can all agree that prices at the ballpark are generally inflated, even for garlic fries. And this is all by design. A lot of times the actual profit that's being made at the stadium comes from food and beverage sales. What's amazing to me is how we as fans can tailgate outside the game, stuff ourselves with a meal before we get in there, and always somehow find a way to buy the ice cream inside the souvenir helmet. Some people call this the experience tax. The cheapest and most expensive glizzy, the Falcons are at only $2, and the most expensive are the Rams and Bears at $8.49. Okay, before we get to the next entry on this list, let me tell you about something that I love. So last month, I told you all about my best friend, Finn. Look at this guy. Finn is blind and he doesn't hear well, and since he's had Lyme disease, he is very sensitive to different foods. For my best friend, my goal is to give him the best food possible so he can live his best life. That's when I decided to try the Farmer's Dog and giving Finn fresh, minimally processed, human grade, high quality dog food. We're in month 2 of feeding him this amazing food, and let me tell you, he loves it. During the transition phase from kibble to the Farmer's Dog, you have to mix the Farmer's Dog food in with the kibble. Well, Finn always ate that first, and now that he is 100% on the Farmer's Dog, he cannot wait for mealtime. I promised my best bud I would take care of him, and I did. And it's all delivered right to my front door. Finn loves the Farmer's Dog, and I think your dog would too. So after this video, you can get 50% off your first box of freshly made healthy dog food by heading over to the link below or scanning the QR code on screen. Plus you get free shipping and 24/7 support. Again, you can get 50% off your first box by visiting the link below or scanning the QR code. MLB revenue sharing. In 1994, MLB had a problem. The players were willing to sit out the postseason to not have a salary cap. So they had to do something. Veiled as a competitive balance act, the league tried to close the gap between the high spending teams and low spending teams to create more parity. Or, have a salary cap. Look, you can argue for or against these practices, but what the league came up with as a solution is an outright scam that other teams take advantage of, and the fans end up being the victim. Enter the luxury tax, a way to punish high-spending teams, somehow reward low-spending teams, still not keep salaries down, and ensure that fans of certain teams get screwed. And this is how it works. A baseline is set for the teams not to go over in payroll, and if you are the New York Mets and you want to spend over that cap, you get taxed above the line. It's actually pretty simple. The money is put into a pool to fund player benefits and be funneled to the lower revenue teams. In the late 90s, the taxes were small as many teams towed the line. In fact, in 1998, the total pool was only about $6 million, but then the big spenders started going ham. In 2024, that pool has grown to over $300 million, with 48% of that to be redistributed to teams deemed as non-payers. Only 9 teams paid taxes in 2024, so that means that 21 teams split $150 million, presumably with the lowest earners receiving the most. That's where teams like the White Sox, Rockies, and Pirates are able to coast on by the Mets and Dodgers spending habits and turn a profit despite having terrible attendance and an awful on-field product. Winning and spending money would be counterintuitive to their business model. If I am keeping my payroll low and receiving money from other teams and making a profit, why on earth would I raise salaries? No team does this better than the Pirates, whose operating model is to break even in terms of organic revenue and then put all of that tax payoff money right into owner Bob Nutting's pocket. Despite having a losing record, low attendance, and a low payroll, the team is comfortably in the black year after year thanks to this ironically socialist system that some of the biggest capitalists in the world participate in. Speaking of the world, this next scam is outright scummy. The FIFA World Cup and Olympics host city bidding processes. The irony in both FIFA and the Olympics is that both organizations operate under the guise of bringing the world together to compete in something other than war. Yes, the spectacle of the World Cup and the Olympics are mesmerizing. However, the way that the host nations are selected are nothing short of a scam. In both organizations, host cities or countries put forth bids that lay out the feasibility of their desire to host each contest and are supposed to be selected on merit. Merit. The best briber is the winner. Let's look first at the Olympics, where cheating in the games is another open scam, but I want to name specific incidents of bid tampering. In 2002, the Salt Lake City Winter Olympics were marred by gifts being showered on the IOC committee members. The 2020 Tokyo Olympics were also caught in scandal, as this time it was corporate sponsors handing out the gifts, not the bid committee. Beijing was chosen in 2008 despite China's human rights record of China 1.5 billion, human rights 0. Brazil won the games in 2016 despite hosting the World Cup 2 years earlier, placing the entire country into massive debt in a very ill-advised move. And at the end of the day, most host cities actually lose money from putting on the games, and many of the venues are left rotting and abandoned as soon as the torch is blown out. Now let's look at FIFA, and with a boardroom like this, you know some evil shit is going down. Pretty much every World Cup bid since the 70s has been accused of scandal, with direct payoffs being alleged top to bottom to FIFA officials, most notably 2006 in Germany, where payoffs were abundant. In 2010, there was a $10 million payment to South Africa, the 2018 Russian bid in which the Russians destroyed their computers so they couldn't be investigated, and of course, the mother of all FIFA hosting scandals, Qatar 2022. Yes, the teeny oil nation of Qatar, with an entire population of 2.8 million, allegedly directly bribed 3 officials to host the games, despite at the time of the bid only having a handful of stadiums and none of the needed infrastructure. But hey, money freaking talks, and everyone in the entire world was like, what the fuck, y'all are hosting the World Cup? Even worse, to build the stadiums for the event, it is alleged that Qatar brought in North Korean labor and essentially exploited them and worked them to death. Speaking of death, it was mighty convenient that reporter Grant Wall wore a shirt in support of gay rights at a match and then died of an aneurysm the next day. Let's just say Qatar isn't that tolerant. Anywho, the US made it out of the group stage, and that's all that matters. So Qatar built a bunch of stadiums in a short time frame, but what about one of the most open scams in the USA nobody ever talks about? The public funding of stadiums. Imagine you live in a city and you work hard every day to put food on the table for your family, yet part of your paycheck is going to fund your local sports team, which you could give a rat turd about. Look, I love stadiums, but there used to be a time when team owners built and maintained their own venues, not strong-arm localities into building it for them. It has become outrageously accepted. In fact, over 95% of the existing stadiums in the 4 major leagues receive some level of publicly funded subsidies. The taxes are often sold as a boon for local economies. Peel back the layers of flashy renderings and ribbon-cutting ceremonies, and you'll find a rigged game. one that overwhelmingly benefits the billionaire team owners. Owners routinely threaten to relocate teams unless they receive hundreds of millions, sometimes billions of dollars. Point in case, the Buffalo Bills. Local politicians, fearing the backlash of losing the team, caved to the pressure and approved deals that divert public money away from schools, transportation, and infrastructure. The promised economic windfalls rarely materialize. Even worse, your team could be the Browns. Study after study shows that new stadiums do not significantly increase local income, job growth, or tourism. Cities are often left saddled with the debt while the team's value skyrockets and the profits stay private. This is called corporate welfare. It's definitely a scam that many people just accept. And now for our last scam we all accept that I'm about to get a shit ton of heat for: owning stock in the Green Bay Packers. Whoa, Packer fans, stop before you dislike this video and call me an idiot. This is a lighthearted segment to close out the video. But honestly, if you bought stock in the Packers, you got scammed, bro. The Green Bay Packers are the only team in professional sports you can buy stock in, as they are owned by the Green Bay Packers Inc., the only publicly held nonprofit that owns a major sports team in the US. Though every WNBA team is a nonprofit. The Packers have issued over 5 million shares, and nobody can own more than 200,000 of them at a time. However, what you get for your money isn't much. Shareholders primarily only receive voting rights in the annual election of the team's board of directors and invitations to the annual shareholder meeting, which typically is a meet and greet with players past and present, and to hobnob with the other shareholders. They also have the opportunity to purchase exclusive owner merchandise from the team's pro shop. Wow, that's privilege, let me tell you, paying extra to pay for something. Let's be clear, if you buy stock in the Packers, that's all you own. You're not an owner of the Packers. Most importantly, shares do not provide any financial dividends, and they cannot be resold on the open market, only back to the team for a portion of the original purchase price. It's basically just a fancy plaque, and other than that one vote you get at the annual meeting, it's functionally worthless. The team can issue more stock and sell them to raise capital, but they get to keep all the monies, Lebowski. I know Tom Grossi and his entire posse is about to yell at me. It is a clever way for fans and residents to directly support their team, but it is a fancy GoFundMe. However, since the Packers have to release their financials every year, we get insight into how much NFL teams really make. So I actually really love this scam. Until next time, I'm 5 Points Vids, and you made it to the end of my video. And please subscribe. Subscribing actually really does help me. Please subscribe.